This morning on BRN, hearing loss can mean a loss of balance for seniors. Joining me now is Dr. Sreekant Cherukuri from the Relief Allergy and Sinus Institute. Dr. Cherukuri, so great to see you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about hearing loss, because my understanding, and I want to get this from you, is as we age, we tend to lose a lot of things, but one of the things we may lose is a sense of our hearing. Is that correct, sir? And how does hearing loss potentially impact our seniors?
You are correct. It is the third most common chronic condition is hearing loss. And a lot of us associated with aging, just like maybe our vision, our dexterity, our joints, things that just naturally aren't going to be as sharp. But unlike those things, untreated hearing loss has been linked to a lot of other conditions, that some of which are really serious in the elderly.
And in terms of those conditions, let's talk about that. And one thing I think is social isolation, meaning if I can't hear what you're saying, sir, and you can't hear what I'm saying, there's a disconnect. But there are other maladies that are attributable to hearing loss, such as a loss of balance.
Right. I think we're all aware that you're harder to communicate with someone with hearing loss. We may all have that person in our family. And we may think, oh, it's just we have to raise our voice or the TV's too loud. But honestly, the last 5 to 7 years, a lot of medical research has linked untreated hearing loss to higher risk of social isolation, as you identified, depression, anxiety, and more seriously, increased risk of dementia, losing your independence, and more curiously, an increased risk of falling.
And falling, I mean, if you fall I fall down. Ask my wife. I'm 52. I fall down from time to time. I might bang my leg or my hip. If a senior falls due to osteoporosis, they could have some significant damage to their bodies, and it can create a whole catastrophic set of events, sir.
That is right. It's actually a leading cause of death in the elderly is falls. And, certainly morbidity in terms of having to have surgery and rehab and then losing your mobility and independence. And we think about that. Why are we thinking that falls and hearing loss are linked? Maybe you think, I'm stumbling, or the shoe didn't fit, or the balance is off. So it turns out there are 3 inputs to the brain that help us keep our balance. One is the eyes. It's, as you know, harder to see in the dark and you might stumble. One is the joints of the feet. And the other is the hearing. And the hearing is the one that's neglected. But actually, anatomically, the nerve that controls hearing, it's called the vestibulocochlear nerve. It's both hearing and balance. Vestibular means balance. And so as our hearing degrades, so does our balance. And we don't think about the balance part, which could be really serious.
So, doctor, can we test for this? We can test for hearing loss, but if you're a senior at, let's just say, 50, 60, should you be tested with an audiologist? How do you go about ensuring that you don't have the hearing loss that could form a balance disruption?
Hearing loss is quite prevalent. It's 1 in 3 people over the age of 65 to 74, and then it goes as high as 90% of people over 85. And so most people, as we get older, are going to have hearing loss. What we don't think about is the risk to the balance system. So certainly get a hearing test, but if it shows even mild hearing loss, you have a 3 times higher risk of falling than someone with normal hearing. And it goes as up to 5 times higher risk of falling as the hearing loss gets more severe. So there's a couple things there. Certainly start out with a hearing test if you feel like your hearing is not as sharp as it used to be, or a family member says that. And the other things you can do specifically for the balance are, if you feel like you're stumbling or you are finding your way, it's very important, and I order this every week on patients, is physical therapy for the balance system. Just like any muscle, use it or lose it, any skill or sensory, we have to keep it sharp. That goes for the hearing and the balance. And with balance, it's specifically physical therapy. And for the hearing, everyone knows what hearing aids are. And the unfortunate truth of the matter is only 1 in 4 people that have hearing loss wear a hearing aid. There's a variety of reasons for that. But what we have learned as ear, nose, and throat doctors and experts in the industry is we've been putting hearing aids or pushing hearing aids on everybody with hearing loss, and we don't give them other options. Let's go back to your mobility example. Let's say a family member stumbles or falls and has a mobility issue, but the only option was a wheelchair. That certainly works for some people, but it doesn't work for those that might benefit from just a cane or a walker. We don't have those other options in hearing loss until now. And so the key we know from the medical studies, we just got to keep the ears sharp. The ear and brain connection keeps that both the hearing and the balance sharp. If you tried hearing aids or you don't want a hearing aid, there are now other options. I'm actually wearing a device. It's an FDA registered device called ClearCast. It's a conversation amplifying wearable that you wear around your neck. It has a hearing aid component here, a very comfortable earbud that you put in when you want to hear. And it can rest down on your shirt or shoulders when you don't want to hear. But it is another way we can keep the hearing and the balance system sharp because it engages that part of the brain and the ear anatomy. And that is, I think, going to be a big breakthrough to help people understand that, hey, if you have trouble hearing, you're not only going to have this one option, there are other options as well.
And, is there a stigma? I can think about the old, I'm 52 years old, as I said, so I remember the old form of hearing aids where they were external, sit above your ear or on your ear, and you can see it. But today, doctor, they're so tiny that you don't even see them. So why the hang up with people not wanting to wear them? Is it maybe they just don't want to hear the people, their loved ones? They have a wife or a husband they don't want to hear.
Right. So I think most people would like to hear, but you're correct. Hearing aids have a stigma. They used to be clunky looking, for lack of a better word, and they are now much more technologically advanced. They are more invisible. They are rechargeable, so you don't have to change batteries. They can connect to a smartphone, so they're more capable. They're even more available. They're now over the counter for early stage hearing loss, and they're more affordable if you go with the over the counter or other options. But despite all of that advancement, it's only 24% of people with hearing loss wear hearing aids. So you know what that tells us? This is not a marketing problem. This is not a product problem. This is the fact that people want other options besides hearing aids to help them hear better.
So those options, I'm sorry, doctor, finish your thought.
Just going to say that's where I think the industry's been missing is we keep making these amazing things that might be really good for people your age or my age. I'm also 52. They connect to the smartphone. They do automatic this, they do that. But that's actually really complicated for someone elderly to have to open up a smartphone, go to an app, make a change just to change the volume.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't want the complexity. Doctor, you also talked about the physical therapy element of this. Look, we have a lot of us are sedentary, maybe a percentage of us work out. Are there steps that we can take in advance of getting physical therapy to improve our balance? I mean, you mentioned you would see a therapist, but is it doing yoga? Is it going out for a walk with a spouse or a loved one? Are there things we can do leading up to getting that physical therapy?
Absolutely. And you nailed it. Exercise is the number one most important thing to improve strength and balance. Exercise, depending on your comfort level as a patient or a person, it's to start with walking. It can start with walking with sticks. You see people that help give you a little more balance, all the way up to, like you mentioned, yoga. Maybe get into a fitness center, get on a treadmill if it's bad weather, or like an elliptical type machine, swimming. Any of those things help keep the muscles, the brain, and everything sharp. Physical therapy is for those people that are actually starting to see signs of trouble. You don't go there if you don't have a challenge already. And then another thing that is common sense, but we don't think about till later, is the home and office environment. Remove the trip hazards. Make sure there's railings on the stairs, for example. Non-slip mat in the shower. Those are little easy things you could think about to help prevent. But I do think this podcast or this webinar is really valuable. People should start thinking about prevention, not only treating falls and hearing loss after it's too late.
Yeah, I love that you talk about being proactive versus reactive. I think that's in general where medicine is heading, is my understanding. Doctor, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon, sir.
Really appreciate you covering this important topic. Thank you.
And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place. Details, of course, at our website. And we're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, Roll with the changes.